Hello and welcome. Let's now quickly move to the templates, which I have already downloaded for the Field Service Management module. These are the templates that we have downloaded specifically for the Field Service Management module. In total, there are 7 templates, and we require data in these templates to use this application to its full potential. I will explain each template one by one. Let's start with the first template, tax category and rate. Before we dive deeper into the template, let me explain a few details that are common for each and every template. This is the instructions sheet. Every template will have an instruction sheet, and it will be different for each one. On this sheet, you will find a few sections. First, you will see the tabs used in this template. Next, you will find the meaning of the template, what the data means, where it will be used, and a brief description of its purpose. If any prerequisites are required for this template, you will find them here. Then, there are instructions on how to fill out the template. These instructions are mostly common but can vary depending on the template. There is also an additional section here. Let me expand it. This section defines how we can validate the template after filling in the data. Once we have filled the data into the template, we need to come back to this instruction sheet and click on the validation buttons. These buttons will highlight the columns, fields, or cells in the template that are necessary to fill out. If there is anything wrong or filled out incorrectly due to human error, it will highlight those fields and provide insights. You will need to revisit the template and re-enter the data. I will show you how this works after filling out one template. This step is common for each and every template. The number of tabs available here and the number of buttons you will find will vary depending on the template. I will show you in a while how the validation works. Now, let's move to the first sheet. Tax rate. The tax rate will be used in many locations within the Field Service Management module. For example, when a vendor charges a customer for a task, service, resource, or travel, there might be taxes involved depending on the country. We have to define the rates for these taxes. This sheet allows us to do that. Filling it out is very simple. First, we have to define the organization. If you want to create this record for multiple organizations and keep it common for all, you can mention an asterisk in the organization field. This means it will be applicable to all organizations. If you are using it for only one organization, you can specify the organization name. In this case, the data will be filtered accordingly. Next, there is the tax rate field. This is the name we can give to the tax rate. For example, let's say 5.5% GST, goods and services tax. We can define it this way. It is an alphanumeric string value, so you can put any value here. The description field is optional. You can keep it blank or add a value. In this case, I have kept it as 5.5%. Then, there is the tax indicator field. This is also a string field. In this template, you will find 2 rows for each field. In row number 2, it provides a short definition or description of the field. For example, in column D, it identifies the short name that will be printed on documents referencing the tax. This tax indicator will be printed on invoices, sales quotations, and sales orders. You can provide the value here. Row number 3 lets you know what type of data entry is permissible in this field. For example, if it is a name, a list of values, or a rate. In this case, it is a rate. You will know what value to enter based on this information. Next is column E. Here, the definition states that the rate indicates the percentage or multiplier used to calculate the tax or exchange amount. This is a major parameter in this template. For example, if we define a 5% tax rate, we have to put the same rate here. In this case, the rate is 5.5%. We also have to provide the date from which this tax is applicable. Some taxes might be applicable from a future date or a past date. The date format is mentioned as DDMMYY, so we have to provide the date accordingly. The next field specifies where this tax is applicable, on the sales side, the purchase side, or both. In this case, I have kept it as both. You can specify it as sales or purchase depending on your requirements. Next is the column match field. If the tax is handled as an expense, you can mark it as Y. Otherwise, it will be handled as a credit. If it is a sales tax, you can mark it as Y. Otherwise, keep it as N. If a business partner is exempt from tax, the exempt rate is used. In most cases, this will be N. Then, there is the surcharge field. If there is a surcharge, you can mark it as Y and provide the surcharge tax in the list value. Otherwise, keep it as N. The next column is default. If this particular value is the default, we have to mark it as Y. If not, we can leave it as N. If you carry a tax certificate, you can provide the value accordingly. If the tax is included in the cost or excluded from the cost of the product, you have to mention that in this column. Now let's move to the tax category. We have to map the tax rate to the tax category. Here we have to provide the organization name and the tax category. We can select the category for the taxes here. You can see the description and the tax rate. We have to select the tax rate we want to map against this category. If it is a default category, we can mark it accordingly. Now, whenever you see the tax category field in the application, you have to select this tax category to include all the taxes. Multiple taxes can be mapped into one category. If you want to create another category, you have to repeat this line and select another tax rate. This is how you can map multiple taxes against one tax category. Now let's validate the template. Suppose we miss providing the tax rate value. Let's see how the validation works. Go to the instructions sheet and click on the Validate button. Processing is complete, and formatting has been applied. Let's go to the tax rate sheet. You can see that the field is now highlighted. This means the field is pending, and we need to provide a value. We have to revisit the template and check if any fields are highlighted. If they are, we need to provide the correct data. Otherwise, the template will not work when we import the data into the system. Let's provide the missing entry. I will copy the 5.5% value and paste it into the field. Now let's reset the validation. You can see the formatting is gone. If I validate it again, the field will not be highlighted. This is how we can validate the template to ensure the data is entered correctly.